I'm going to address one rumor. Someone came forward and said that there was a rumor floating around out in the community that the chief deputy and myself were going, when a law enforcement officer retires, that they can purchase a weapon for $1, and they were saying that we were going to purchase these high dollar weapons for $1. That is a complete lie. We can purchase our service weapon for $1, the one we carried when you achieve full retirement, and then it's just a benefit that comes from the state. What also happens, the locality still has to fill that void of the weapon. It was bought for $1, but it is in the state code. So basically what was just heard right there is I can refute all of those numbers clearly.
The importance of these high dollar rifles, how important are they to the community?
These two rifles in particular, and I back up a little bit, it's been 3 or 4 years ago, and I commend the Martinsville Speedway, Clay Campbell. They do put the safety of that track in mind, and they want the spectators and fans to come in and have a great time and a safe time. They paid the largest portion of a company to come in. They go around the world teaching SWAT operations and tactics for large-scale events. When they brought their staff there and taught school right there, we actually did live fire exercises on the racetrack property. They taught us things that help us to maneuver, work through crowds, traffic, and everything. One of the things that came up while we were talking about this, I actually brought this point up. At that time frame, one of the things that we were seeing over in Europe was they would drive something like a Penske truck or something into a crowd and killing numerous people. And I talked about using the current sniper rifles that we have to stop that type of threat. And he said, you can't do it. And I was taken back, and I said, what do we need? And he told me this is exactly what we needed right here. It's called a 338 Lapua Magnum. And it is to the point, but actually when you look at it, actually, I guess we've been so stigmatized by movies and things like that, and where and we pray we never have to do it, but a regular vehicle is not as easy to stop. You don't just fire a weapon and it just stops in its tracks. Actually, vehicles are pretty hard to stop in and of themselves, but when you get into large vehicles, it's to the point that engine blocks for those things can be almost impossible to crack. This particular weapon will do that. This will also deal with armor plate, and this is very important. So, and I point out once again right here for this right here, this was asset forfeiture. This right here, the taxpayers did not pay for. That's what used to purchase these two rifles. They're very unique in what they do and the optics and their abilities. Then we also had to go to school. I'll address one thing. It's been out. The school to get ready for the next upcoming race was taught in Las Vegas. Myself and one of the other men in the office went to Las Vegas. There was nothing about that trip that was a pleasure trip at all. It was a 40-hour class packed into 4 days. We arrived Sunday night. We flew out Friday morning. We did 10-hour days on the range. But with that, the primary reason I went, and once again, I have to give this school a lot of credit, but each day we did 1 to 2 case studies of how this weapon had been implemented out in real-world environments. Like one particular incident, a man was in a rage in a tractor trailer, and they couldn't stop it by conventional means. Another incident that this can go through plate glass, and it was a hostage situation that was stopped down in Georgia that no conventional rifles could not have touched. So that's how this came about. It's how it was advised, and then that's why I attended the training, because in essence it is to the point. I will make the decision how it's implemented, and then of course when you start something like this, the concern is how to stop it and making sure you want to. It's like a surgical instrument. Any type of precision rifle, you want to stop the threat, but you want to do no other harm in conjunction with it.
Wow.
And I'll point out right here, we actually just had our reaccreditation assessment. Monday afternoon, there was a team that come in from Vallepsi. I think it's a Virginia law enforcement professional Standards Commission. One of the things is they go over our equipment, and I will say we have to wait for the commission to meet on their findings, but out of 196 standards we were found in compliance of all standards. There were no returns. You can read into that. The commission will then make a formal notification of the findings. But I said that to say this: when we had our equipment that we are capable of responding out in the community to, they were very impressed and even commented that there is very little that we can't respond to, start, even stop, and our training that goes along with it. What we've done, there's nothing that is wasted. This is to make sure the citizens of Henry County have the safest place that we can make it by the capabilities. It's like our technology, and I talked about our, it's Faro Technologies. We have a crime scanner. This good portion of that was paid for by asset forfeiture, but now if we have a crime scene in this room, it comes in and it makes a complete digital recreation of this, and you can walk a jury or a judge, defense, everyone through a virtual tour of the crime scene. You can expand on points. You can take your finger on a computer and mark 2 points. It will measure it. Our capabilities and technologies, we've tried to give the citizens of Henry County the best office we can make.
Interesting, very interesting. Good evening, caller.
Bob, this is Charles. One of the things I wanted to, we had about 2 minutes of the show we didn't get recorded, and I want to make sure that we go over those issues on the commercial that the sheriff feels like is not accurate. But one of the first things on the commercial, he comes off and says he's going to do resource officers in every school. Is that, but one thing he doesn't say is how he's going to pay for it.
And you're exactly right, Charles. This has been talked about in years past, and certainly when some of the atrocities have happened in schools, and especially any school, and but with that, it was talked about. But what it all comes down to, there's 2 options. You can either pull from existing ranks. As I said, we have 133 employees. 13 of those are non-sworn. So you have to take your sworn officers. You can either pull from the existing ranks, and or the county can fund a tax increase. We put together the numbers, and this has been a few years. It would actually be a little higher now, but to put an SRO in each school, because when you hire a person, the benefits that go along with them, the MEDI, the FICA that goes on there, payroll, you outfit them, and this really, then you got to decide whether or not they're going to have a car at this location, but their equipment, you have training involved. It was pushing $750,000 to put SROs in every elementary school. We're already covering the 2 high schools, 2 middle schools, and CCL. So $750,000 has to come from somewhere to put extra officers. The other thing is you can either pull from existing ranks, and I'm going to take a second right here to point out some of the things that we do. One of the first things, and now we only have 133 employees, but one of the first things we do is we take care of almost 300 inmates a day, and a number of those are housed throughout the region. Up to this point, we put our numbers together for this term, starting January 1st, 2016. We've answered, up until a short period ago, about 167,000 calls for service. That is a massive number. Now that's not, once again, 300 inmates over here on the side. We run a courthouse, we have animal control, we have 5 school resource officers. So I point this out, we've had 34 SWAT operations. What that means is someone like a barricaded suspect, someone that's having mental issues, and we've recently seen some tragedies involving that with mental issues. But dangerous situations in the community, in this term, we've had 34 SWAT operations. We've executed 23 drug search warrants on top of that. The Vice Unit has indicted over 270 people on over 675 distribution charges. Our seizures are massive, 238,000 in currency. Illegally possessed firearms. We've actually seized body armor in some of these places.
What we're hearing you saying is that you remain sheriff. You think these men need to stay looking at that versus going to the schools. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, and thank you, Charles. And what I was pointing out, and thank you, but there's still some patrol arrests and stuff for the drugs.
Yeah.
But if you don't get it in a tax increase, and the board of supervisors doesn't approve, the state is not going to pay for these officers. The only way it's going to come is for the county to have a tax increase, come up with this $750,000, and put extra officers. So with that, the only other option is then to pull from the existing ranks. So out of all of the stuff going on, and I will say this, you can't take from the jail. Those are mandated and audited positions. You can't pull from these jailers. So our investigators, our drug investigators, our patrol officers, the only way, okay, if I want to look at that plan, probably one of the first things I'd have to do is pull 1 to 2 officers off every patrol shift, or pull 1 off every patrol shift, couple investigators, a drug investigator, to try to put this together. So now one of the biggest issues that is talked about on a daily basis, the drug issue, patrol, people's safety. Now you have less people doing that. It has to come up some way. It's either going to pull from the existing services going on, or it has to come through a tax increase.
And let's go to the guns. I want to make sure we understand that better.
Mm-hmm.
He's saying the $50,000 on the 2 rifles, and you're saying that's from drug money, and that does not come from taxpayers. Is that what you're saying?
Right. Well, and actually, it wasn't $50,000. Right here is a purchase order that I pulled. The actual amount was $27,432. Yes, $27,432. First time I looked over in this column, it didn't have $300 shipping charge. That was the 2 rifles. It was.
Is this similar to the tank? I remember last election. We've been through this before. When that, I think Jerry Farmer made a tank issue that issue last year because it kind of looks flamboyant.
Well, and the point of it is, yes, the armored vehicle, but in those numbers, so 34 SWAT operations, and 23 narcotic search warrants, and that armored vehicle has gone out on the bulk of those. And it keeps our officers safe. It can rescue someone who may be in danger of gunfire, things like that. This makes the citizens safe. And yes, and it is a good comparison. People can think of it in that capacity, but these rifles that drug asset forfeiture money paid for are actually a service that anything that happens within a county, and especially when we have a large assembly of people at the racetrack, we can do very strategic and specific work.
Last week he was on the show. He said that he had sat down and talked to you and that you were tired. I don't know if you saw that.
That I retired? That I was?
No, he said you were tired and you didn't want to do this anymore. That you actually told him that.
No, and I actually heard him Saturday morning say he went over his ideas before he left. No, we didn't. The conversation that we had before he left actually was a negative conversation. It was a one-sided conversation. I listened to him, and he resigned there sometime thereafter, and that was it. No, I have not been tired. And I want to thank you for this, because I'm hearing some massive atrocities out there. People are being told I don't care about small businesses. People are being told that I'm going to retire and go into the ministry. I am not retiring. I'm staying with this. I want to see this jail project through. That will entail the entire 4 years. I want to walk this project through. Kind of where we was going, I believe in the opportunities and changed lives that can take place through this. But no, I'm not tired. We take every crime seriously. I will have to say, in reality, for anyone, any sheriff, any chief, anywhere, you hurt for every person that has been a victim. But we cannot solve every crime, and we try our very best, but we will not be able to. And yes, there are some that are near the threshold, but constitutional law and people's rights, you take an oath when you do this job, and there's some that get up near the edge, but if you can't get the case across that where you can carry it to court and be seen in the value of why you arrested this person, took their rights from them, and presented a good case to the court, you will get sued.
Well, let me ask you, did he, on this last conversation you had with him, did he quit, or did you tell him he couldn't work anymore?
No, I never told him he couldn't work anymore. There was that conversation.
Kind of like, if you don't do it my way, I'm leaving?
I think it's fair to say that there was something that happened within the office. He was not happy with a decision I made. I'm going to refer back to something that he said probably back in the beginning of the year. My leadership had changed. My leadership has not changed. It's been rock solid in what come out of 2006 and from there on. And numerous people have heard me say this, I give God the credit and men and women. But I have not changed or wavered. But unfortunately, in the position I'm in, I have to make decisions that I can't please everyone. And let me say, and look people in the eyes, these decisions are made in your best interest. I am your elected official inside that office to make sure that office serves you to the best of its ability, that we get every ounce out of every person, that our equipment is the best, and we can respond to any situation that happens to preserve your life and safety. And unfortunately, that I can't please every person, but I have not changed. And what we have done, and while we have handled these numbers, while we've also been lining up a new jail, the funding was cut out of the budget, so we had to go back to Richmond and get the funding put back in. We had to have meetings, and one thing will come up, we had, before this price was approved, we had to get $4.5 million worked out of this jail to get the price down to a place where the Board of Supervisors would accept. All of these meetings took time, and in the meantime, all of these numbers are taking place and all of this stuff's getting taken care of for the community. So I think it's sound evidence that the office is working very well internally. Everyone's doing what they're supposed to. We're doing a professional job. And where we have brought the office years back out of adversity and proven ourselves, we know there's an adverse future in front of us with building the jail, hiring almost 100 new people, and I hope to assure the people, I ask for your ability or your vote to allow me to carry it forward into the future, and I think we can very well take care of you, as you have seen, and get this new place up and running.
All right, now one of the things on his latest commercial, he ends it with a cat on top of the sign. I think he's trying to refer, because I think early in the campaign he's trying to imply that you don't like cats and you actually shot at cats and things like that.
And you know, it's answered that question back before. Have acted as an animal control officer, and yes, it's a little jab. You know, Bob and I had a conversation today. I'm to the point. I hope to have proven we can lead the office. We're trying to serve the citizens the best we can. I'm not about mudslinging and jabs. My position in this is we've had 13 years of sound leadership, some massive numbers, some good employees. We know we're going forward in this upcoming future. These same calls, the same drug problem is still there. We're still going to continue as hard as we can with massive numbers and arrests. But in this upcoming term, now it's approved. We're building a jail. And so we have to meet as it's being built. We have to oversee it to an extent. We have to do planning. We have to put the most current technology in it. There will be numerous meetings with that. And then what will start about next year is the hiring of the people. We actually have to hire, do background investigations, get the people applications, do the background investigations, hire people and get them trained so that the day that we pull all of our inmates back from other places and empty the facility over here, we have the staffing to take off from day one. And this is a big job. And I hope that anyone that's running for this position will focus and explain how they plan on doing that for the future instead of wasting time. First off, proving very quickly and efficiently that all of that about the commercial was not accurate at all. And
I mean, on a 1 to 100% scale, how accurate is that commercial? 0?
It's working towards 0.
Wow. I mean, we know that after Labor Day, we've been doing this over 30 years, covering news and stuff in Martin Luther County. It will get, we call it silly season.
Yeah.
Where it gets into, we have to do this every week, trying to understand what might be in a commercial, what the other guy's saying. One of the things that I hear that both camps, Farmer and Castle, saying is that they respect you, but then they start slamming you.
Yeah. And
what do you think about this? I mean, you got to be like, oh my goodness, what is this going to be like, right?
Well, and and that's, I'm trying to be the same person that I've always been, and the same person I've been for the 3 years preceding this. And you are exactly right. When anyone's running for the office, of course, myself and John and Jerry worked together for around 20 years around each other. And I'm gonna say this: we, up until the very tail end, for John and Jerry, we got along. We worked together. At the tail end, there was just things that there came to be a difference of opinion of, and unfortunately, I have always got along, and I'll say I like them. But at the end of the day, a vote by the community entrusts a person to do the job for them. And at the end of the day is, I have managed the office for them, being the servant and steward for them. That was what I thought was in the best interest and what they needed to get the best services. And unfortunately, there was people that just weren't happy with it.
One of the things from a number standpoint, you won, I think, about 65% against Jerry Farmer last time. Is that accurate? I can't remember.
Well, actually, I think it was about 70. And I'm going to say, and here's a message, please. We can actually show by the numbers in previous elections. It was about a 70-30, but actually from my numbers based on previous elections, the two before, what you would say is I had a low voter turnout. And as I'm going around, I'm hearing really good things out in the community. I ask for your support, and I ask those that are supporting me, please do not take November 5th for granted. Please turn out that day and cast your very important vote. They all matter.
But, I mean, at the best of adding numbers up, I don't see in any way either one of these guys can win.
Well, all I can do is run my campaign, ask for
I mean, do you agree with that?
Well,
you haven't had anything that catastrophic, during your tenure.
Well, I will say I've worked very hard, and one thing that I say, I have my marks that if those things were to happen, I would consider my time a failure. So I strive very much. That's the reason why we've got some ex-employees. This little column over here, 8 resigned because they were in the middle of a disciplinary action, and 9 were terminated. I, unfortunately, while I never knew the corrupt acts from years ago, but I saw some lifestyles that started snowballing and leading to the corrupt acts, saw the things on the outskirts, and so I manage the office. The expectations are very clearly defined, and when we do warn people, we tell them in a good way. I mean, in a way that is not fussing, finger pointing. But when expectations are not upheld, we bring them in and say, these and these and these are the things that you're not doing that goes along with everything else. And we take a time or two, and there's certain actions that we will not tolerate. And when people are living lifestyles that go against a deputy sheriff and the example it sets out in the community, we part ways if they won't understand this authority is a trusted position, and it is our job to do the best we can for the citizens.
We're hearing rumors right now that the Jennifer Short case will be settled right before the election.
No, and I want to thank you for taking these rumors and addressing them. No, I was in patrol as a supervisor when the case occurred. I actually had a very good friend that was involved in the investigation of the case, but the patrol officers were involved in searches, and anytime there was a report where she might be seen someplace we wanted to check. Really didn't have I had only peripheral knowledge of the case while I was in patrol. I was a supervisor, and it come a point a short time later I lateraled from patrol to investigations as a supervisor, and then from that point on my knowledge of the case became a lot more. I do have a knowledge of the case, but I want to say it is a daily prayer for that case to be solved. I know it's a daily prayer for many in the community, and especially a family. And Bob and Charles, I'll ask you now, this is 13 years for me. Have you ever heard me bring the case up politically? I have never, nor will I ever make a political statement towards that case or capitalize on it in a political way. And I think it's reprehensible that occurs. Now, I'm going to have a moment of honesty here. Knowing what I know about the case, there are people that we really have a strong interest, a small number, But my knowledge of the case, it is to the point I do not foresee anything happening in the very immediate future with that case. I'm just going to be honest. Now, is it still being investigated, and can it get to that point? Yes. But to answer that question that was spoken of and put out in the community, no. I have never said that internally. I don't speak about the case in a political manner internally. And when it's spoken of, it's only when a lead has come in, when leads are being talked about. We still have investigators that come in from other agencies that are helping us with the case, and it is legitimate law enforcement talk. But that I can assure people I would not and never will do anything associated with that case that would be combined with politics.
We've been promised as we get closer to the election that there's going to be bombshells. And that's what we've been told.
Well, I'm one. You can hear that. That keeps a person on edge, waiting and listening. You can keep a person in suspense a long time, and then nothing ever comes of it.
Yeah.
That's my thoughts of it. I know the office. It is not under investigation. I'm not under investigation. We work excellent with every other agency. The drug cartels that, and I want to commend all agencies that started. It started about 18 months ago, but what was in the news, the drug search warrants, and then the 12 people that were indicted. But that was an excellent cooperation between local, state, and federal, and I commend them all. But it was agencies working together. We found out that our investigations are going much further. We cooperate with Patrick County, Martinsville, other agencies. Like, one of the things, we have a little bit more of this problem on the border between Patrick County and Henry County, where the drug dealers run back and forth across the line. Well, we swore in some of their officers, they swore in some of ours. And this
Last week he brought statistics saying that in Franklin County they have less men and are solving more crimes than you are.
Yeah, that actually was something that, and I know those numbers that, and I don't have that piece of paper, but I actually intended to have it, but no. And I want to point out something about the statistics that are used. There are numbers pulled from uniform crime reports. Well, that is a snapshot of 1 year, and that's it, and it moves on, waiting to compile the statistics for next year. We're still solving cases in those numbers. So the numbers that we give are current numbers. You know, you can take the snapshot of 2018, and that's it. You can look at it in a book. But there could still be a high percentage of cases out of those cases in 2018 that were still solved, that were unfounded through the investigation, or could be prosecution declined. You really have to get in and explain numbers, and you have to look at all of the tangents surrounding it.
Right. Now, you know, the next 2 months your office is going to be under heavy scrutiny. Are you going to be able to respond within 24 hours on some of these things because we keep hearing about these bombshells that are coming? Are you going to be ready to respond?
Well, that's yes, I am. I mean, and I want to thank you for this, because I want to come in and present myself. But you've actually took a lot of issues head on, and I've been able to express and get my information across to the public. We work very hard for you, but I actually have the paperwork that can go here and refute those.
One of the things I have been public about, because last election I kind of challenged you a little bit about getting back to the media, and I have publicly said this: you have done the best of any law enforcement office in the region.
Yes.
And we cover the region.
And you do.
I mean, you will text us back in 10 minutes, and it's amazing, even when you're out of town.
And you know,
there's been an amazing improvement there.
I try to look out after all of my local media outlets, and I started, and that was from a number of years ago. But no, and actually a text, I'm gonna say I don't have my phone set up on alert for an email. Yep. I just periodically sit down and check my emails when one of the media outlet calls, and I know it's one of our local media outlets that's going to be putting information out to our citizens. I try to respond as quick and promptly. And you found out that text, even when I'm in the middle of something, sometimes I can still text information, or if I'm not aware of current happenings, I immediately know which division it's going to fall within, and I can go get that information, so that the first time I bring that information to you, you've got the best information we can put out at the time.
But I really do sincerely feel that you want to be transparent with that information, because I think you realize that getting information out quick can help you too.
What it does.
You get that. But we, in years earlier, we have struggled with that with some law enforcement, thinking that we're just, being overbearing and that kind of thing. We just really want to do our job right. We want accuracy, and we feel like you're the source to get the accuracy.
Well, thank you. And you are 100% right. The relationship between the media and the citizens in our office, there's 3 legs to a table that go around. And we've, of course, through social media, the news, the live news that goes out, people want to help what's going on in their communities. And if we can get their eyes and ears attuned to what we're working on, the information pours in, and it helps us. First off, it protects them from dangers, makes them aware, and we solve cases quicker and easier. When we have a suspect and we put a picture out or anything, it really is a humbling and appreciated thing when y'all get the information right out, and then the public starts calling in, and we're doing a job for them, and boom, it's over with just in hours or something like that.
All right, I know. I want to make sure we got through some of this, because this is kind of the pileup that's been going on. I'm sure it's going to start speeding up here in the next 2 or 3 weeks.
It will.
You
Yes.
need to take a commercial break, but we are going to phone lines to the public.
Thank you.
All right, we'll take a break. We'll be right back.